Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody is doing well out there. Over the past few weeks or even a couple of months, I've had several people reach out and ask me to make some content about a system called Moodle. Moodle is an open source learning management software system that's basically a content management system that people can set up to for educational purposes and that sort of thing. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to set that up. I'm not going to go into doing things like setting up tests or courses or anything like that. That's kind of outside the scope of what I want to show here. But what I will show is how to set up Moodle in Docker. So as I mentioned, this will be set up in Docker, so you will need to have Docker set up for this. I'm also going to use Portainer, just so we've got a user interface to interact with versus doing things in command line. And if you want to set this up to be accessible from the internet, you will, of course, need a domain name and some sort of reverse proxy set up on your system or on your network. I'll be using NGINX Proxy Manager for that. And I've already got a domain name set up, and I'll show you how to point a subdomain using a CNAME here in just a bit. So let's jump over to my desktop and take a look at how to get Moodle set up. Okay, so here we are on my desktop, and this is the Moodle website that I encourage you to take a look at to get more familiar with what it can do and how to do it if you're interested in that sort of thing. There's a documentation section here that should be a really great way to get familiar with how to configure Moodle as far as courses and tests and things like that. But basically what we'll do is we'll jump over to here. I looked through several different releases of Moodle on hub.ocker.com, and Bitnami was kind of the closest thing to being complete and functional. So if we come down here a little bit, we can see that there are a couple of commands that you can run. The problem that I have with this, like if we take a look at this link right here to this YML file, it goes to here, and I spent more time yesterday than I care to admit trying to get this to work because there were just little things that just didn't work. So what I finally ended up doing was coming over here and creating my own Moodle stack or Docker Compose here. So we've got, this will be version 2. We're going to run a couple of services, the first one being a Maria database. Of course, below that, we're going to mount where we want that to be stored on our system. And then we've got some credentials to get logged in. As far as the password, I encourage you to change that password just for security purposes. Then if we come down, we've got the Moodle, the actual Moodle container here. Like I said, we're using the Bitnami version. We're going to use 8080 as our primary. This 8443 was supposed to be for an SSL version, but we're not going to use that. We'll use the 8080, but we'll attach an SSL to it via NGINX Proxy Manager. And then below that, our database host is going to be Maria database, which we see right up here. The user will be root, the password will be Moodle, and the database name will be Moodle. Again, I encourage you to change this password to be something other than Moodle for security purposes. Below that, we've got PUID and PGID that I've talked about probably 100 times, but that's what we've got going here. So basically, if you're using Open Media Vault, what you need to do is open an SSH terminal. I'm going to use PuTTY, but I'm just going to type this in, and I'll get logged in as root. But because I'm using Open Media Vault under this, what I want to do is get the ID of the admin user of Open Media Vault. So I'll just do ID admin, and right there is 998 and 100, like we see right here. And then we've got a couple of volumes to map things here. One is just for the configuration, and then one is to store data. And below that, we've got where it depends on Maria database, and then we're linking to Maria database there. So what we'll do is we'll just copy this. And of course, you can modify these ports, this 8080. Don't modify the second half, just modify the first half if you need to. And then, of course, the passwords you'll want to change. And then if you need to change the volumes, you can do that as well. So let's go over here to Portainer. We'll go over here to stacks. And then we'll go ahead and click on add a stack, and we'll paste that in there. And we'll paste that up there for a name. All of this should be good to go on my system. So let's go ahead and click on deploy the stack. It will give us a few minutes to do its thing. And then once it actually is done downloading, we'll go in and take a look at the logs for Moodle, because there is a bit of a It's going to take a little while for Moodle to do its thing. When I was originally testing this, it actually took about 5 minutes to deploy. Once we actually take a look at the logs, I'll show you. Okay, so here we've got Moodle up and going. It looks like what we want to do next is actually come over here to the logs and take a look here. So right now it's trying to connect to the database server. We'll give this a second to do its thing. Okay, so that's good. That means it connected. Because we're seeing this running a Moodle install script, that means that it was able to connect to the database. So that's good to go. What I experienced last time is once we got to this line right here, it was almost exactly 5 minutes from this point where the script was actually fully installed and ready to go. So this is a good time to go take a bathroom break or grab something to drink, something like that, because it will take a few minutes to run through this install script and do what it needs to do. So at that point, we'll come back and jump into Moodle. So if you ever feel like your script has kind of gotten stuck or whatever, a little trick that I like to do is come over, open containers in a new window here. We're going to look for our main container. I'm going to go right over here to stats, and I'm going to change this to 1 second. And then we can actually see things working in real time, or I mean semi-real time anyway, so that we can get a better idea of what's going on with memory, CPU, network transmission, things like that, just to make sure that things are doing something, and it looks like they still are. So we can come back over to here. Looks like nothing here has changed. So you can definitely keep an eye on it this way, just to make sure that things are still working. And then let's just jump over to here and see what happens. Yep, still working in the background. So we'll go ahead and close that. I guess what we can do is like that, just so we can kind of keep a better eye on both of these at the same time. Okay, so we were able to kind of watch this. We can see that right here at the end, things went pretty nuts as far as CPU usage was concerned. Network usage kind of stayed consistent there, though. And then if we look, this kind of peaked out until we got to the cache, and right there is kind of where you can see where it launched. Everything there is good to go. So let's come back over to here. Let's minimize this and full screen that. And then let's just pop this open. All right, so you're not logged in, and I believe, okay, so it's user and Bitnami. I was close. All right, so let's go over here. Let's type in user. Let's give that a try. There we go. So now we're logged in to Bitnami, so we can go to site administration. We can do all kinds of stuff in here. Again, I'm not going to cover how to set up courses or tests or anything like that. I really wanted to just focus on getting this installed. We can see that it did take actually even quite a bit longer this time than it did for me before. It was like 15 minutes this time. So let's, the next thing we want to do here is we want to make sure that this is accessible to the internet for the sake of, allowing other people to take your courses and tests and things like that. So the first thing we've got to do is come over to here. I'm using CloudFlare. What I want to do is set up a CNAME record. And I'm going to call this Moodle. And then my target is just going to be the @ symbol, because that will set this up appropriately. Like that. And I'm going to make sure that that's checked to be DNS only for the time being. And I'll click save. The next thing we need to do is come over to our NGINX proxy manager, or whatever reverse proxy you've got. And I'm going to say add a new host. I'm going to go ahead and type that in, and then I'm going to give it the IP address of my server. And 8080 is the port that we're accessing this on. You can see that right there. So I'm going to go through and check common exploits, request a new SSL. We'll do all of this and click save. Okay, so now we've got Moodle set up and working here. Of course, there's a couple of little things we need to do. We need to go back into here and reinforce those, because that's just how NGINX Proxy Manager seems to work for me when I do it that way. So that should be good. And then what we can do is come back over here to Cloudflare and change this to Proxy instead of DNS only. And then we should be able to click right there. And right here, we're logged in. We've got our SSL set up right there, like so, running from Cloudflare. So that's good to go. So we should be able to log in again. And this was user and Bitnami. And there we go. Now we're logged in using Moodle on an SSL encrypted URL. Okay, guys, there you go. There's how to set up Moodle on your Docker instance. Hopefully you found the video helpful. And if you did, it'd mean a lot to me if you give the video a thumbs up. Really would help me out quite a bit. Also, if you're interested in learning how to set up different types of Docker services and containers and things like that, definitely get subscribed. I've noticed only about a third of my viewers are subscribed, so it would mean a lot if you guys would get subscribed if you're interested in my content. Again, everything that you'll need for this video will be available in the description down below. While you're down there, there's a couple of different ways you can support the channel, whether it's becoming a channel member or through Patreon. I want to give a big shout out to both my channel members and my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. You guys really do help me out quite a bit, so thank you. But I think with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. As always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.